The universe is expanding. Every second, the distances between distant galaxies grow a little larger. Space itself is stretching, while the light of billions of stars continues its endless journey across the cosmic abyss. We know this thanks to decades of observations. We measure the velocities of galaxies, study their spectra, and watch the very fabric of the cosmos slowly evolve over time. But among all the questions raised by this discovery, there is one that is surprisingly simple. If the universe is expanding, where is its center? At first glance, the answer seems obvious. If something is expanding, then there must be a place from which that expansion began. If a balloon bursts, we can point to the location where the shock wave originated. If a stone falls into water, the ripples spread outward from a clearly defined center. That is why many people imagine the Big Bang as a gigantic cosmic explosion that occurred at a specific point in space. A point that should still exist somewhere in the universe today. But what if the question itself is flawed? Perhaps one of the strangest things about modern cosmology is that many of its answers contradict our intuition. Our brains evolved on a small planet orbiting an ordinary star. We are accustomed to thinking in terms of up and down, center and edge, beginning and end. But the universe is under no obligation to conform to what feels logical to us. And the deeper we explore the cosmos, the more often we encounter phenomena that cannot be understood through everyday experience. To understand whether the universe has a center, we must first understand what is actually expanding. Very often, people say, galaxies are flying apart through space. But that description is not entirely accurate. In reality, space is not expanding inside some larger empty void. Space itself is expanding. And that is what makes the situation so extraordinary. Imagine two-dimensional beings living on the surface of a balloon. They cannot perceive a third dimension and know only the surface on which they live. If the balloon begins to inflate, every observer would see the same thing. All other objects would appear to move away from them. The farther away an object is, the faster it would seem to recede. But the most interesting part is something else. Every observer would believe that they are at the center of the expansion. And yet none of them would be wrong. For every observer, the picture would look exactly the same. Not because there are many centers, but because there is no center on the surface at all. The surface itself is expanding. No point on it possesses any special status. Of course, our universe is not the surface of a balloon. But this analogy helps illustrate an important idea. Perhaps the expansion of the universe does not require a central point at all. Perhaps we are searching for something that never existed in the first place. Observations tell us something remarkable. No matter where we look, the universe appears surprisingly similar on the largest scales. Galaxies differ from one another. Clusters have different shapes. The number of stars can vary dramatically. But when we examine regions spanning billions of light years, the differences become astonishingly small. The cosmos begins to look almost the same in every direction. Scientists call this isotropy and homogeneity. The terms may sound complicated, but the idea is simple. If you look far enough, the universe shows no preferred direction. There is no special side of the cosmos that appears more important than any other. There is no region that points toward the existence of a cosmic center. For decades, astronomers have tested this idea again and again. More powerful telescopes allowed us to peer deeper into space. We studied galaxies, quasars, galaxy clusters, and the relic radiation left behind by the early universe. And every time, the universe revealed the same pattern. On the largest scales, it appears astonishingly uniform. But there is another observation that played a crucial role in our understanding of the cosmos: redshift. When astronomers began measuring the light from distant galaxies, they noticed a strange pattern. The farther away an object was, the more its light shifted toward the red end of the spectrum. At first, it seemed reasonable to assume that galaxies were simply moving through space, like cars traveling along a highway. But over time, it became clear that reality was far more complex. We are not merely observing objects moving through space. We are observing the expansion of space itself. Imagine two distant galaxies. They may barely move relative to their nearby neighbors, and yet the distance between them continues to grow. Not because they are flying away from one another, but because the space between them is expanding. That is why the farther an object is, the faster it appears to recede. Not because some enormous cosmic force is pushing galaxies apart, but because there is simply more expanding space between them. And this effect accumulates over billions of years. Today, we estimate the age of the universe to be about 13.8 billion years. During that time, light has traveled unimaginable distances. But here we encounter another extraordinary feature of the cosmos. When we look far into space, we are also looking far into the past. Light does not travel instantaneously. It takes time to reach us. Sometimes years. Sometimes millions of years. And sometimes billions. As a result, every galaxy we observe appears not as it is today, but as it was when its light first began its journey toward us. In a very real sense, telescopes are time machines. They allow us to observe different chapters of cosmic history simultaneously. Some objects reveal a relatively recent universe. Others allow us to glimpse an era when the first galaxies were only beginning to form. And the farther we look, the closer we come to the limits of our vision. There is a boundary beyond which we cannot see. Not because something necessarily exists there, but because light from more distant regions has not had enough time to reach us since the birth of the universe. Today, we call this boundary the observable universe. It is not a wall, nor is it the edge of space. It is simply the limit of what we are able to see from our position in the cosmos. Much like a sailor in the middle of the ocean can only see as far as the horizon, we can only see as far as our cosmic horizon allows. Today, the observable universe has a radius of roughly 46 billion light-years in every direction. At first glance, this may seem impossible. If the universe is only about 13.8 billion years old, how can we see farther than that? The answer once again lies in the expansion of space. While light was traveling toward us for billions of years, the universe itself continued to grow. As a result, the distances between objects became much larger than they were when that light was first emitted. But this is where our story becomes even more fascinating. Imagine that you could instantly travel to the edge of the observable universe. What would you see? Would you finally discover its true center? Would you find the edge of space itself? Or perhaps the location where the Big Bang actually occurred? At first, that idea seems perfectly reasonable. If we are somewhere inside an enormous structure, then traveling far enough should eventually reveal its true geometry. Sooner or later, we should be able to identify its center. Yet modern cosmology tells us something entirely different. If you suddenly found yourself in that distant region of space, you would once again see an observable universe surrounding you. Different galaxies, different stars, different cosmic structures. But your horizon would still extend roughly 46 billion light-years in every direction. And once again, you would find yourself at the center of your own observable sphere. This is one of the most astonishing properties of the cosmos. Every observer sees themselves at the center of their observable universe, not because they occupy a special location, but because the speed of light limits what can be observed. And that is precisely why the question of a cosmic center is so difficult to answer. We never observe the entire universe at once. We only see a limited region of what may be a vastly larger reality. Now let us take one more step. What if the observable universe is only a tiny fraction of the whole? What if beyond our cosmic horizon, there are trillions of galaxies we will never see? What if the cosmos extends far beyond everything accessible to us? Modern cosmology does not rule out such possibilities. In fact, many models suggest that the real universe may be vastly larger than the portion we can observe. Perhaps thousands of times larger, millions of times larger, or perhaps infinitely larger. And if that is true, then the search for a center becomes even more complicated, because an infinite structure does not necessarily require a center at all. Consider an infinite number line. It stretches endlessly in both directions. But where is its center? There is no such point. Naturally, this idea is difficult for the human mind to accept. We are accustomed to objects that have size. We are accustomed to beginnings and endings, to boundaries, to shapes. But infinity challenges all of those intuitions. Perhaps that is why the question of the universe's center remains so compelling. It is not merely an astronomical question. It touches the foundations of how we understand reality itself. We seek a reference point, a privileged location, a place from which everything else can be measured. For thousands of years, humanity repeatedly believed itself to occupy the center of existence. First, it was Earth. Then, the solar system. Then, our galaxy. But every major discovery revealed the same pattern. The universe turned out to be far larger than we imagined, and our place within it far less special. Today, we know that Earth orbits an ordinary star. That star resides in the outskirts of one among hundreds of billions of galaxies. And our galaxy itself is merely a tiny fragment of the observable cosmos. Yet perhaps the most remarkable discovery is not how small we are. It is how uniform the universe appears around us. Wherever we look, the cosmos shows no sign of a preferred direction, no indication of a privileged location, no evidence pointing toward a central point. Even the cosmic microwave background, the oldest light we can observe, tells us much the same story. It surrounds us in every direction. Its temperature is nearly identical across the sky. Small variations do exist, but they are so tiny that they resemble faint ripples on the surface of an immense cosmic ocean. Those tiny fluctuations eventually became the seeds of galaxies, stars, and planets. In the end, they even led to the emergence of us. Yet they still do not reveal the existence of a cosmic center. So does the universe have a center? The honest scientific answer is surprisingly simple. We do not know, and we may not know for a very long time. To answer that question definitively, we would need to observe the entire universe. We would need to understand its true shape, its topology, its boundaries, if such boundaries even exist. But today, we cannot see beyond the observable horizon. Perhaps space continues indefinitely beyond it. Perhaps something entirely different awaits. Or perhaps reality itself is far stranger than anything we are currently capable of imagining. Yet even now, we can draw one important conclusion. The universe does not appear to possess a privileged point. It does not indicate a center. It does not reveal a special direction. It offers no map, with a marked location where everything began. And perhaps that is the most extraordinary answer of all. The deeper we explore the cosmos, the stronger the realization becomes that the center of the universe may not be a place that can be found on a map. Not a coordinate in space, not a distant point billions of light years away. Perhaps the very idea of a center exists only because the human mind instinctively searches for beginnings and endings in everything it encounters. But the universe may be far stranger than that. And until we learn to see beyond our cosmic horizon, the center of the universe will remain exactly where it appears to be for every observer. Here, at the point in space from which they gaze into the stars and try to understand the nature of the infinite cosmos.